Have you ever stared at a name on a screen and felt the world beneath you simply dissolve? The screen of her laptop left open on our bed cast a pale, sickly glow in the 2 a.m. darkness of our Chicago high-rise. It wasn't another man's name that broke me. It was the Google search history. Untraceable poisons, odorless, tasteless toxins. My breath caught in my throat, a dry, rasping sound. I looked over at her, my wife of 10 years, Sarah, sleeping peacefully. An angel in the moonlight filtering through the blinds. The search bar told a different story, a horror story. And the most terrifying part. I had no idea why she was looking it up, but I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to the bone, that it was meant for me. If you genuinely enjoy our stories, please subscribe to the channel. Tell us where you're from and what time it is right now. It's always fascinating to know how far our story flows. It started subtly, as these things always do. A sudden obsession with her phone, angled away from me just so. Late nights at the office that stretched into the early morning, smelling not of stale coffee but of a faint, unfamiliar cologne I couldn't place. I'd been a fool, a trusting, loyal fool. I'd built our life from the ground up, pouring every ounce of my soul into my architecture firm to give her the life she. Dee always dreamed of the penthouse overlooking Millennium Park, the European vacations, the closet full of designer names. And in return, she was humiliating me. The discovery began with a receipt tucked into her coat pocket. A hotel I'd never heard of, the Viceroy on State Street, for a client meeting. I knew her clients. None of them met in hotel rooms. That night, I didn't sleep. I just watched her, this stranger in my bed, and felt a cold dread crystallize in my gut. The strange behavior escalated. She became cold, distant, her words sharpened into tiny, cruel daggers meant to chip away at my confidence. You're working too much. John, you look tired. Maybe you're just being paranoid. It was classic manipulation. Turning my own concern back on me, making me the villain in a story she was writing. Her affair partner, I soon learned, was Mark, a slick wealth manager from a rival firm, the kind of guy with a plastic smile and empty eyes. I saw them once, from across the street at a cafe on Rush Street. They looked so comfortable, so untouchable, laughing together in a bubble of their own creation while my world was imploding. That was the moment I truly broke. I walked for hours along the lakefront, the icy November wind whipping tears from my eyes, a raw, primal scream trapped in my chest. The man who had left the apartment that morning was gone, replaced by a hollowed-out shell. But as the sun set, casting long, cold shadows over the city, something new began to form in the wreckage of my heart. A quiet, calculated rage. The breakdown was my baptism. The man who walked back into that penthouse was no longer a husband. He was a hunter. I started gathering proof with a chilling detachment. I hired a private investigator, a grizzled ex-cop who operated out of a dusty office in the Loop. He was expensive, but worth every penny. Gave me everything. Photos of them kissing in a parking garage in River North hotel check-in records. Copies of their texts, explicit, mocking texts about me. The words burned themselves into my memory. Sarah called me her golden goose. Mark called me the old man. They were laughing at me. The poison search was the final piece. It wasn't just about infidelity anymore. This was something far darker. I set my traps with the same precision I used to design buildings. Legally, I moved our shared assets into protected trusts my lawyer, a shark from a top firm on Wacker Drive, had prepared. Socially, I began a quiet campaign. I had lunch with Sarah's mother, a woman who adored me, and expressed my deep concern for Sarah's recent erratic behavior and new, unsavory friends. I mentioned my worry about her spending, my fear that she was in some kind of trouble. I planted seeds of doubt everywhere. The public exposure was my masterpiece. Sarah's parents were hosting their annual charity gala at the Art Institute of Chicago, a massive event for the city's elite. Sarah was on the organizing committee, preening and glowing under the spotlight. She and Mark were there, of course trying to be discreet but failing miserably. I waited until her father, a man who prided himself on integrity, took the stage to give his keynote address. As he spoke about family and loyalty, my pie, dressed as a waiter, handed a single, thick manila envelope to him, and another to Sarah's mother. I watched from the back of the hall as they opened them. The silence that fell over their table was more profound than any explosion. Inside was everything. The photos, the hotel bills, the texts. And on the very top, a printed screenshot of Sarah's Google search for untraceable poisons. Her father's face went from pride to ash and horror. Her mother simply stared, her hand flying to her mouth. Sarah saw their faces and knew. Her smile faltered, her arrogant mask cracking. She looked for me in the crowd, her eyes wide with panic. I just gave a small, almost imperceptible nod and walked out. The fallout was biblical. She was disowned, publicly and privately. Her father's company, which she was set to inherit, cut her off completely. Mark was fired when the scandal hit the press, his reputation in the tight-knit financial world destroyed. The divorce was a formality. My lawyer tore her legal team to shreds. She got nothing. I saw her one last time, months later. She was working as a hostess at a mid-range restaurant in Lincoln Park, the designer clothes replaced by a cheap uniform. The arrogance was gone, replaced by a deep, hollowed-out shame. She saw me, and for a moment, her eyes pleaded. I just looked through her, a ghost from a life she had burned to the ground. I turned and walked away, the quiet satisfaction colder and heavier than any love I had ever felt for her. The city lights blurred as I walked, each one a tiny, distant star in a universe I now navigated alone. And in the end, all that remained of our perfect life was the silent, lingering question of what she had planned for the poison. The end.